Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and today we got a pretty interesting guitar on the channel. This is a special edition BC Rich Junior V in Satin Shadow. But what makes this guitar unique is it's got a pretty cool system that BC Rich was tinkering with. And it's not quite a through neck design, and it's not quite a bolt-on. This is called the Invisibolt system. And I've never seen it before. So yeah, let's check it out. So I picked up this guitar locally. I thought it was pretty interesting, and I always like V's, and I've never seen this system before, this Invisibolt system, so I went and picked it up and gave it a quick try. Everything seemed to be good on it, and I got it for a decent price. So yeah, let's go over this thing. So the Junior V is BC Rich's version of the V. It's got some pretty interesting specs on this guitar. So it's got a string through design. So this finish is a black satin. So it's a little bit older, so you can see it's kind of been rubbed shiny in a few areas. The whole body is bound, kind of like custom shop binding. Looks like it's like 7-ply. It's got an ebony fingerboard with jumbo frets. There's no markers on the fingerboard at all except for this widow headstock on the 5th fret. It's got a synthetic nut and a widow style headstock, which you know, isn't for everybody, but I think it looks pretty cool. And we can see our special edition there. And then it's just one volume, one tone, 3-way pickups. It's got a tunematic style bridge and 2 humbuckers. And let's have a look at the back. So this is what makes it pretty strange and cool, is this whole mounting system, like the neck, how the neck mounts to the body. So apparently underneath the humbuckers there's a bolting system that bolts this piece, which is part of the neck. So it's like one big giant extended neck that fits into the body, and then it's bolted on through the humbucker cavities. And then the neck has a a widow headstock, so I think the neck's going to look pretty interesting once it's removed from the body. It's going to basically look like a big double widow neck. And the guitar's in pretty good shape. This is a NATO body, which is a wood similar to mahogany. And the neck is a 5-piece maple neck. And you can see it's one piece maple neck. It's not a scarf joint. So they needed a pretty big piece of wood to start out with for this neck. So yeah, pretty cool. And I'm interested to see how this system works. So let's go ahead and get on the bench and take a look. Weighing in at 8 pounds, 5.2 ounces, not too bad, or 3.77 kilograms. So underneath the pickups are where you're supposed to see the bolts for connecting the neck, or screws, or whatever it is. The benefit to this system apparently is there's increased surface, like wood-to-wood contact, rather than your traditional, you know, bolt-on neck. It's supposed to increase sustain and resonance, but it could be just marketing. So let's go ahead and look underneath the pickups. Have a look at our pickups too while we're at it. So here's our BC Rich bridge pickup. It looks pretty standard, just that gold kind of import looking pickup with the gold back. It says bridge pickup BHC. And then our neck pickup is very much the same. It says F for front, and the bridge says R for rear, and it says neck pickup BHC. So let's have a look at our routes here. So yeah, we can definitely see there's something going on in there. It looks like there are 4 bolts here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and they look to be Allen key sized. So I'll have to try to go through my Allen keys and see if I can find the right size, and then we can remove the neck. Let's have a quick look at the bridge while we're here. It's a Tune-O-Matic style bridge, and it says B2 here on the bottom. It does have a retaining wire, and it's black, and it's just mounted to these bridge posts that are mounted into the body here. So I'm sure it probably came with a tool to do this with the guitar, but any Allen key will work that's the right size. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove these 4 screws, bolts, whatever they are, and then we can remove the neck. So I removed all 4 bolts and was giving it some pressure, and it didn't seem to be moving at all. And then I realized there's 2 more bolts here on the neck pickup facing the neck. So I'll remove those 2 before I try to remove it again. So it was actually a little tricky to remove. It was in there with quite a bit of, it's really tightly fitted in there. So I had to give it quite a bit of force and kind of rock it out. It came out no problem, but yeah, it was a little harder than I was expecting. So let's just quickly check out this neck because it's pretty wild. So yeah, it's normal. And then there's another headstock at the bottom, which is pretty wild. The other thing I noticed is there's no seam lines on this neck. So, and it's a 5-piece neck, it continues all the way there. So it must have started as a giant piece of wood, at least this big. And then they routed out this part. And then they made the neck, they carved the neck over here. And yeah, it's a 1-piece, well, it's a 5-piece neck, but the wood that they must have used for each of the pieces was at least that big. And then you've got your wings on the edge of the headstock, which is normal, like Gibson does that too. So pretty neat in terms of construction. And then here, and this part that fits into the body, you've got your receivers for the bolts built right into the wood. And yeah, it's the same shape as the headstock. So pretty interesting. I can see, like, this is a pretty big surface area in terms of contact for the wood. So I can definitely see that helping with resonance and sustain for sure. It's a pretty cool system. And let's just have a quick look at the condition of the neck while we're here. So yeah, no bumps, scrapes, or dings in the neck. It's kind of a semi-gloss. It might have been satin, but kind of worn glossy over the years. It's got the BC Rich proprietary tuners. They feel okay. They're not slipping or they don't feel loose or anything. And really nice ebony fingerboard. Very smooth, nice and glassy. The fretwork appears very nice. There's no fret sprout at all. And it looks like the ends of the frets are finished very nicely. The frets themselves have no wear, and they're decently polished. I'm going to run it through the buffing machine to get them super shiny. And our headstock is just pretty standard. It's the satin gloss shadow finish, satin shadow finish, and then our truss rod is a 2-way truss rod. So in the pickup cavity, it had these plates. So this is what mounted it to the wood of the neck. They just fit in like that. And then here's a look at our neck route, if you could call it that. So there's like a very thin little piece of wood where the bottom of the humbucker sits, and that's where the plate goes. It connects it to the wood. And this one's kind of an L plate, because you've got the 4 bolts here, 2 to the side of the neck and 2 to the bottom. And I'm just going to move that out because I think it's going to fall out if I flip it. But yeah, that's what the bottom of the body looks like. You can see that's right where the headstock fits in. And I'm just going to dry fit it in so you can see how tight it is, how tight it fits in there. So you just basically fit it right into the hole like a puzzle piece, and then you kind of got to make sure that everything goes in at the same time so everything stays flush. And yeah, it's very tight, very snug. Again, just with this design, I don't think there's any room for a neck pocket to be loose, just because these all parts need to fit very specifically. And of course there is no wiggle once you have it in. So yeah, very, very interesting design. It seems like it works quite well. Probably the reason it was never mass produced or used, further, is I can see this being pretty labor intensive, the way that this is made and all the extra steps that you have to do. It probably, depending how it's sold, if it didn't sell well, they probably just decided to scrap it because it was a lot of extra work. But functionally, it's quite solid. Alright, so just making sure the pickups are all reading, and they are. So in the bridge position, it's reading a 17.3, so they're likely a high output ceramic style pickup. In the neck position, it's reading a 16.4, and in the middle, it's about half, so a 8.5. And our output jack is just mounted on the side of one of the horns, so it's a nice convenient spot. The route's nice and clean. Looks like the humbuckers are using this like quick connect system. We've got an offshore 3-way switch and some mini pots, 500K. We've got a B for the volume and an A for the tone. And yeah, looks pretty standard. And the back of the cavity plate is shielded. Alright, let's get some neck specs quick. So this is a 25.5 inch scale, so very similar to like a Fender. And it's got a 12-inch radius all the way across. So that's very much like a Gibson. Width at the nut is a 1.70 or a 43.28 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, that goes up to a 2.07 inches or a 52.72 millimeters. Neck depth at the first fret is a 0.84 inches or 21.37 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, that is a 0.92 inches or a 23.58 millimeters. Just having a good look at the neck here, and it's got a huge piece of thick ebony for the neck. Like, that is a massive piece for the board that they use, so that's very, very thick. And ebony's not cheap, so. And it's a full 2 octaves, so this is a 24 fret. I didn't realize that. And here's a look at the neck profile. So yeah, it's a very D-shaped neck, so a little bit flatter than like a C. And the neck itself feels quite thick in terms of like, yeah, the thickness. So it feels like a chunky D neck. It feels good. Managed to get quite a nice setup on this guitar. So using my notch straight edge, you can see that there's very little space between the straight edge and the fingerboard, so that tells us that the truss rod is set nice and tight. And then I've checked all the frets. There's no rocking anywhere. The fretwork is really well done on this guitar. And using our 3rd fret, you can see on the 1st fret that the string is like resting gently against that 1st fret. So that tells us the action's nice and low here. And the nut is well cut. And then at the 12th fret, using our depth gauge, we can see that the action at the low E is sitting at just about, it's quite low. It's between a 0.5 and a 0.75. And that's about the same at the high E. So both strings are sitting between a 0.5 and a 0.75 millimeters, which is very, very low. Alright, I'm going to go through the whole fingerboard to make sure there's no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I like to speed up this part, but if you want to hear it in real time, just slow down your player to 25%. So yeah, very nice low action with no fretting or buzzing anywhere. So yeah, this is a great feeling neck too. That satin finish makes it feel really nice and smooth. There's no fret sprout at all. And I don't think I've played many chunky like D style necks and I kind of enjoy it. Feels great. And the guitar itself is nice and lively. It really rings out acoustically. And lots of sustain, still going. And you can feel the whole guitar like vibrate in your hands, so there might be something to that Invisibolt system. All right, let's take a quick look at the overall condition and then we'll get it plugged in and see how it sounds. Let's have a quick look at the condition. Yeah, our headstock looks good, no scratches or dings. And I polished up the frets so they're super shiny. And our fretboard looks great, super polished ebony. Feels great to play, super smooth. And yeah, I was blown away by how big that piece of ebony is. It's crazy. Yeah. And on the body, it's a satin finish, so you do see every little scratch and impression. But for the most part, it's pretty clean. It's worn smooth in a couple spots, and you can see some slight surface scuffs and scratches in the light. But no major scratches or dings. And then on the back, same kind of a thing. In the light, you can see a couple spots. And we do have 2 chips on our horns here on the back. These pointy portions of guitars is where you usually get chips, because if you hit it against something, it's such a small surface area, they almost always chip. So I'm actually going to go ahead and color these and fill them so they'll be sealed, just so no moisture can get into the wood. So that's something I will do. And yeah, this is where the neck fits into the body, and there's no impressions or marks on the neck. And just our BC Rich tuners there. So overall, quite clean condition, and I'm going to deal with those 2 little chips. Today we're going to plug into something a little bit different. So this is my Bujera 1960 Infinium, which is basically a plexi clone. And I'm going to mic up one of the speakers of my 412 Egnator cabinet. And I'm using an aux box attenuator. Because this thing's crazy loud. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll down the volume to get a nice clean sound, and then jack up the volume, and that'll give us a really kind of a Marshall Plexi distortion when we want it. Alright, we're going to start with clean in each position, and then we'll max out the Plexi clone and see what that sounds like. So it actually sounds quite nice, clean. Actually, I really find ceramic pickups, high output, really sound very nice and clear, clean. So let's go ahead with a little bit of distortion. All right, final thoughts on this special edition BC Rich JRV black satin shadow with the Invisibolt system. This guitar is great, and I know there's a lot of preconceptions about BC Riches and that sort of thing, but this thing will make you a believer. The build quality is excellent. The fretwork is really, really nice. Again, no sharp frets at all, perfectly level frets. I've managed to get a crazy low action on this guitar, no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I really love the neck. It's a chunky D, which is something I haven't tried very much, and I really like it. It really fills out the hand nicely, and it's nice and comfortable to play. These pickups looked pretty generic, but they sounded great, both clean and dirty. I guess one area of improvement could be the components for the electronics. They were just the mini pots and like offshore switch. Those could be upgraded, but again, that's very easy to do. And I was super impressed by this Invisibolt system. I think it's a great design. You do get a lot more surface wood-on-wood contact with this big area being the part that attaches to the body. And it works seamlessly. It was easy to take apart. It was designed very, very well, and you can feel the increased resonance and sustain. It might just be this guitar in particular. Again, some guitars just are more resonant and ring out more than others, but there might be something to this because this thing was very, very resonant and had excellent sustain. As far as the headstock goes, you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. Personally, I don't mind the way it looks. BC Riches are kind of coming back into style, and this is just kind of so over the top that it kind of comes back into the realm of being cool again. I was really impressed by how thick that ebony board was, and it just feels great. Super, super shiny and smooth. I really love ebony boards, and this one was done very well. The neck through design might be contributing to some of the sustain too, and I like the look of it. Like, if you didn't look at the headstock, which again I don't have a problem with, but I really like the shape of the V. And the satin black looks really, really cool with the, you know, the multi-binding. And then you get to your ebony board, which is great. The inlay is, you know, whatever. You can't really tell what it is, but it is a Widow headstock. And then you get your Widow headstock. So regardless of what you think about this and this, from there down, it looks pretty cool. And it is nice and light too. Again, just over 8 pounds, which is very decent. And it stayed in tune well. The nut was cut well. Tuning stability was not an issue at all for me. Having the 24 frets is great. Having 2 full octaves, and the upper fret axis is great. You can totally get right up there very comfortably. Not a lot of bad things to say about this guitar, other than maybe upgrading the electronic components a little bit. I really ended up liking this a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to sell it yet, but if I do decide to sell it, I'll put the link on Reverb and you can check that out. But other than that, thank you for tuning into Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'll have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.